Goodbye, everybody. But we're also on tape. We are deep down in the bowels of Leafs music. It's episode 57 of Kamloops Last week. Chris Folds, no Greg the engineer, Star Wars convention maybe. Magic Mike's here, and so is Bill. Where's Greg?
Greg has just gotten a new place and is moving today after working his butt off with Music in the Park and Armstrong IP and everything. He got a well-deserved 2 days off.
And so you paid him well enough to go buy a new place.
Yeah.
Anyway. That's Mike Cameron. Folds, you want to tee it up?
Yeah, this is our guest today, and former Major League Baseball player, best known for being one of only 18 players since 1894 to hit 4 home runs in one game. That happened in 2002 at Comiskey Park in Chicago against the White Sox.
Who he was drafted by.
Yeah, he full circle, and then he came back and he hit 4 home runs in that game. It's only been done 18 times. Pretty amazing feat. Beyond that, he was a really good outfielder.
Yeah, and we're not just randomly having him on. He's in town this weekend for a fundraising event that's part of the NSA Co-Ed World Series Slo-Pitch event. Andy Bhatti's putting it on. Andy specializes in interventions and addiction services. They're giving away a bunch of rehab
scholarships, like $300,000 worth of scholarships to send people who need help to really high-end rehab facilities in Thailand and Manitoba. They were here about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
You did a story on it. People get help through this, and Andy's a pretty interesting guy.
Jonny Gomes also going to be in town this
Former
weekend.
Red Sox, yeah, he's here. They're going to have a home run hitting contest on Saturday at the Tournament Capital Ranch, and that's where people can find out how they can help with the whole cause.
So stay tuned. We're going to talk with Mike about his career and what he's up to this weekend. Above the folds, Denis Walsh and politics in general.
Yeah, we'll do an update on the election, civic election. It's September 1st today as we're taping this. The long weekend's coming up, and that's generally the start. That's really the start of the year. Summer's over. Kids are going back to school. People start cocooning. People start thinking about things that they kind of ignored during the lazy, hazy days of summer. So we're going to really get into civic election talk in this show. But today we'll talk about just an update of who's running, who's not running. It's a week tomorrow is the deadline to file your nomination papers.
And right now I thought it'd be cool to talk about something. Maybe Mike has some thoughts on this too. Denis Walsh involved in this as well. A notice of motion that city staff research an inclusive voluntary addiction treatment center and recovery center. So what's the latest there?
So that's dead in the water again. In November of 2021, less than a year ago, 10 months ago, Denis Walsh introduced a motion that the city have staff look into the feasibility with senior levels of government of the possibility of building a rehab treatment facility somewhere outside of the downtown core, outside of where the temptations are, outside of where you see the issues and the problems. So people who want to get help can go get help, and then without being tempted and falling back through the cracks.
And one of the areas that was mentioned at least was the
Tournament Capital Ranch,
where this tournament's going on this weekend.
There's a huge tract of land out there, so the city could easily build a rehab center out there. Or not the city, it would be the province. It's not the city's mandate. Anyway, back in November of last year, it was shot down by a vote of 8-1 at council because council said it's not our mandate. We're already being downloaded by doing a lot of social service stuff that it really isn't our job, but we have to help. They say councillors said, we're already talking to the government about that. You see all the BC housing facilities going up. You see treatment beds coming here through IH, the Phoenix Center. There's a bunch of youth treatment beds. There's some youth treatment beds on the North Shore now. And so the council says that's part of what we're already doing, and we can't overload staff with doing more of that work when it's really the responsibility of the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions. So they said at that time and back last year, no. And then he revised the wording and he brought it back to council this week to say what's the harm at least looking into. And the council again said it's really not our domain. And Dale Bass mentioned we're already working on this kind of stuff. But Mayor Christian said, and he had a good quote, he said, it's not as if we have staff sitting around waiting for assignments on their desks. They're pretty busy down there, he said. Adding this to their workload won't accelerate what we're already working on.
I think the idea behind it from Denis is that it's a way to maybe help with the homelessness situation, help with the crime situation, and get these people help. But some people will say that it's inhumane. I mean,
Denis Walsh made a point this week of saying a voluntary rehab. You're not going to pick people up on the street and force them in there. Although I think there should be we should for some people who are repeat offenders and it's due to their addictions, they should be forced into treatment. I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for that, but I think a lot of people are tired of the bullshit. If you want help, get help. If you don't want help and you're hurting society, you should be forced to get help. That's my rant. But Denis Walsh has said it's a voluntary. For those who want help, what's the harm in looking into it?
The reason I brought Mike's name up is because maybe he has thoughts on it because he's been affected all the time by some of the crime issues down here. But I don't know how I don't know how you feel about that.
I guarantee all the break-ins you're doing it. I bet you 99% of them are related to addictions.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that people need help. I don't think they're bad at their core. But I think you need to take them out of the environment that's causing the trouble.
That's what Denis Walsh's big thing was. He's saying, we could build all these social housing places in town, and it's good to get the people off the street in the cold and the heat. But unless you have wraparound services, and I think the Mora House on the North Kamloops is one of the ones that's working quite well. There's not a lot of problems as far as I know around there. They have a holistic approach. They teach them gardening, they teach them life skills. They have counselors in there. There's other ones like the Greyhound Station up in Southgate. Apparently it's not as well because I don't know if they have the same wraparound services to help the people, and there's a lot of crap happening around there.
Yeah, that area is a trouble area.
So there's a tale of two different things run by the same organization, I think, CMHA. So it's a matter of resources. But like Mike says, if you put them in housing, that's great. You're getting them. But if they're not getting any help for their primary issue, which is maybe addictions or mental health, and they're downtown and they're going outside and there's dealers preying on these people, you don't solve anything.
Okay, we're going to have Michael Potestio on here in a little bit to talk about the latest. Yes. To talk about number one, his tomatoes, which are a disaster right now, the calcium deficient tomatoes that he has.
Yeah, well, he's a North Shore Italian, so apparently maybe the South Shore Italians can do better tomatoes.
Yes, and he's going to also talk about some actual news.
Big story,
the latest on the shooting near the Sing Bowl there.
Yeah.
But it does all tie in the tomatoes to today's sponsorship pitch. I house sat last week for David the Hawk Eagles.
Our photographer,
Yes, legendary photographer. He paid me in pepperoni sticks and cash, and they treated me very well. Chips,
PBR.
Pepperoni sticks, PBR, and also a jar of salsa, which
Homemade
Dave
salsa.
calls homemade salsa. And then I talked to Michael Potestio yesterday. He randomly brings up the fact that you and him have been talking about tomatoes and there's calcium issues, and then I talked to Herman Hothi, my guy right here, as I always do, to say, Herman, what's on special this week at New Leaf Produce Market? And he says, Marty, guess what? It's Salsa Week at New Leaf Produce Market. So it all tied in. Yesterday, I went out and filmed this commercial at Dave the Hawk Eagles Nest in Dufferin. So check this commercial out right now. And then we're going to bring on this guy right here, Mike Cameron. Herman, listen, stand still. Do you hear that? Because I do. That is the sound of the waterfall inside the Eagle's Nest. We are at the property of David the Hawk Eagles, one of the finest photographers in the history of Kamloops, but did you know this? He is also proficient in the art of tomato growing. Unlike the calcium-deficient pomodoro that grows in Michael Potestio's backyard, Dave Eagles produces the finest of tomatoes, and this salsa, as he likes to call it, salsa, and only one place in town, is equal to Eagles, the New Leaf Produce Market. On sale at New Leaf all week. It's Salsa Week. Tomatoes, onions, banana peppers, zucchini, andolini, anything you need for salsa at the New Leaf Produce Market. Salsa. Mike Cameron, welcome to the show. First of all, have you ever been to Kamloops, and what are you going to be doing here this weekend?
I've never been to Kamloops, obviously. I've been to Vancouver, and I haven't been to Calgary either. So, but I have taken part in some parts of Canada and experienced it and everything, and I'm looking forward to it. That was one reason why when Cam called me to Cameron Bell, when he called me to ask me would I like to participate, and I was like, that's kind of interesting. So to be able to go and just kind of get a feel for the sights and sounds of what it's like, and also be there for a great charity event. And obviously I found out that Jonny Gomes is going, so I know it's going to be exciting now.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
I hate to dive right into the deep end here, but it's an event about addiction and rehab. And I was wondering about during your playing days. I mean, how prevalent was it in the locker room? I mean, pill popping and addiction. I mean, how prevalent was it back in your day?
I don't know about the addiction part of it, but just myself alone, taking anti-inflammatories and taking sometimes some couple of toradol shots, just to kind of get through it. When I was done playing, I went on like a detox for like 8 years. And so that was the one thing I wanted to do was try to kind of clean my body up and make it as natural as I possibly can. Because my last year I had one major surgery that kind of took me over the top, and I needed to kind of like take my body back to getting back to normal. And I've done a pretty good job of that. And, I'm proud of it. But, anytime we start talking about addiction and mental health, it definitely rings a bell now at this particular point in time. People are more aware of it, and we're taking the opportunity to kind of see it and address some of the issues that are taking place.
Yeah, I even feel like when you were playing, the awareness would have been much less. I mean, you taking those shots and doing those things to help you get by, you probably weren't really aware, or maybe I'm wrong, about the effects that could have on your body. Or correct me if I'm wrong.
The good thing about it is you start to ask questions and you start to be informed about what's taking place when you ask the doctors. And, the good thing is some clubs, we used to take blood tests every month of guys who took anti-inflammatories and whatever else that they were taking as far as like to be able to help them go out and stay on the field. I wish we had some of these mental skill coaches when I was kind of early in my career to be able to help me out a whole lot more. I had a personal guy that was able to help me a little bit, but it would have been good to have someone that you can talk to, considering there's so much pressure to play the baseball game. No matter how much guys make it look easy, it's not just baseball, it's life in general, everything outside of life, just to be able to kind of, share the sentiments, other than, with your teammates and the guys who you kind of, that are going through some of the same things you're going through. And that's just on one level. I mean, then you start talking about the struggles. You could be going very well, the pressure to continue to do well. There are so many different aspects I'm sure guys would have loved to be able to share, especially when I was coming along in the early years of the early 90s and late 2000s.
Cool. Let's talk about baseball. Folds, lead the way.
Well, I mean, I think every interview you've ever done, people mention the 4 home run game, obviously, and maybe you're tired of talking about it. And so what we were wondering, and it ties back to what you just said there. When we're watching Major League Baseball players, they make it look easy, but there's a lot of stress and it's not easy. But when you played, it looks like it was effortless. So during that game, when you were back in Chicago, your first team, coming full circle, and you hit 4 home runs, what was it like? What was the feeling like? And was there any, after the third one, were you nervous, or are you locked into a zone at that point?
So to start off, going into that, ironically, I was kind of struggling at the end of the month, April. And, but there was a certain comfort level when I played against the Chicago White Sox. Obviously, it was my first team that drafted me, that kind of nurtured me and got me into the big leagues, and then traded me off. And when I was in winter ball, so I had a little bit of animosity in that sense, trying to show them that I was a really good player. And fortunately, every time I played against those guys, I just tried to do as much damage as I could. And on that particular day, I can't even explain. I just got 4 balls. I hit the ball very well, and I got the ball up in the air 4 times. It was already kind of a gift of hitting 1 home run and then hitting another one in the same inning. So at that point, everything was like a gift to me. When you consider having hitting 3 home runs in 4 innings or something like that, and we still got a long ways to go. So it was just, that game was just, I was just an autopilot, man. I was kind of like watching my own self play the game in a sense. So it's a pretty special day. And I think, maybe somebody agree differently, but if it wasn't so cold, and if I would have hit the ball just a little bit more, 5, as we use now the analytical terms of the trajectory that I hit that last ball, which would be launch angle, I probably would hit it out of the ballpark too. Yeah. Every time I took a swing, it had home run capability, because I hit 1 foul also.
Yeah.
which is crazy.
Is there anything, because you've been asked every question in the book about that day, is there anything that no one's ever asked you about that happened that day? Do you remember what you ate? Is there something different that you've never told anybody about?
Well, I had eaten like I know I had like a strawberry shake before the game. I had it that night before also. And I think I also had like these like a BLT and something else. And I know that I do know that from eating. But the one thing that nobody really kind of like recognized or really talk about that particular day, I robbed Magdalene Ordonez of a grand slam also.
Oh, did you?
Okay.
I didn't know that. What a
Right in
game.
the outfield. That's great.
That's got to be, obviously, that's your best game of all time then, right? I mean, individually?
Yeah. I mean, considering hitting the 4 homers, most definitely. I feel like I've had some good games that could match up to that, but like I went 4 for 4 with 2 homers and 8 ribbies in Yankee Stadium against Andy Bhatti. So,
Yeah.
Kind of when I got older, I played in Milwaukee, and the first time I ever got 5 hits, and I went 5 for 5. And the last one, I almost had a cycle with it. I only missed a triple, I think, and in the last at bat I hit was a homer. So, I mean, so that's just like many aspects to those things. I'm fortunate that when I had these days, that we also got a W too.
Yeah, that's right. I think probably one of your greatest days also is July 29th, 2004, when you were playing my beloved Expos in Montreal, and a fan named George was heckling you. Apparently, this is what I hear, and he was heckling the hell out of you. And then you made him a bet, and you said, if I get a home run on my first at bat, you move seats. If I don't, I'll give you my hat. And second inning, you get up there and you hit a home run, and he didn't move.
So we had a day game that day. I love Montreal, by the way. Man, I love Montreal. But we were having a day game that day, and it was like a 12 o'clock game, and the guy came down. He was heckling the heck out of Mike Piazza, and I'm like, dude, can you just like shut up? And so we were taking batting practice, and he got to talking, and I said, look, I'm going to hit a homer today. Oh, well, he made the bet. He's like, if you get a homer, I'll shut up or whatever it is. I said, if I hit a homer today, I want you to move as far as the way you possibly can. If I hit 2 homers, I want you out the stadium watching it. But no, I wanted to put him like way up at
the top of the big O there.
Olympic Stadium.
Yeah.
And it happened, and I was like, I want to make sure, I want to see you up in those stands when it takes place. So it definitely was a good day that day in Montreal, because I was feeling good. I knew I was going to hit a homer, and I knew the guy who was pitching, Rocky Biddle, that I was going to hit a homer off of him because I already had success against him.
Wow. When we knew you were coming on, I called a few buddies who were big Mike Cameron fans. The first thing they said is ask him about the 4 home run game, but then a couple of them said, like, ask him about his style. And I remember you had the flat brim hat and the sunglasses, and you're so smooth in the outfield. You kind of glide around. I mean, did that come naturally, or did you consciously think about style?
Not really, so everyone was always telling me, like, why did you tilt your hat all the time? I was like, well, I tilted my hat because, I'm left-handed, so I would tilt my hat to wherever my strongest hand is. I wore shades all the time because I got hit in the eye. And so I couldn't take in much sunlight in my right eye. So I always wore shades, and Lou never gave me any trouble about wearing earrings. I think the only time I've had to take my earrings out was my first year with the New York Mets, period.
Yeah.
Other than that, I've always was able to wear my earrings, and in Boston also, I'm sorry. But just the joy of being able to kind of have your own style. I think the guys now are doing their own thing in a sense, but in my case, it was just the way I felt comfortable playing the game, and I'm grateful for it, because people are like, man, your style. I'm just like, that was me. That was the way I went about my game and the way I played or whatever. So, and now there's so many different aspects to the game of style and the way these guys are doing. I think they're able to express themselves even more so in the time that I played and the time that I spent there in the major leagues.
You've been generous with your time. We'll have two more questions, then we'll let you go. Folds, you got one more?
No, I'll end off asking. I'll ask you this question because when you're coming up here to help with this charity event, and a lot of the Kamloops players will be able to come out and watch you on Saturday. Apparently, there's a home run derby contest between you and Jonny Gomes. Who's going to win?
Look, I just talked to Cameron, and he said that Jonny Gomes has been going all over the world doing this softball thing. Look, the one thing I can do is I still can hit. I just, so it's just like I swing a golf club enough. So I would think I'd be able to put some good swings on it. But obviously, I got a few years on him as far as like, in the age bracket, and he's been doing this for a living. So I'm not a living, but opportunity to do it in many events. But I'm willing to challenge him with that. I'll make sure that I'm ready for it when I show up at the ballpark the day that we get a chance to do this, because I love Jonny Gomes too. So it'll be really interesting, and I guess if we had to kind of give a favorite. I'll be the underdog, and we'll let Jonny Gomes be the favorite.
Got to lay some odds on that for sure.
Here's the last one. It's a two-parter, and you played with 11 Hall of Famers, and we're dealing with some Mariners stuff because of the geography here. And Edgar Martinez was one of those players. You have any interesting stories about him? And the second question is, coming over in the Griffey deal. I mean, this is one you've been asked a million times, I'm sure, again. But the shoes that you have to fill. I mean, how tough was that? So if you could address those, and then we'll let you go.
So I'll address the last question first, since it's like fresh on my mind. Coming over in the Griffey deal, as we continue to talk about mental health, I had no one to really talk to about what was transpiring in that deal. I was traded 6 days before spring training, and obviously it was the biggest trade in baseball, one of the biggest trades in history at that time. And there were 4 other guys that got traded over there with me, but I was the guy who was actually going to play in the same position, stand in the same place that Griffey was. And Griffey's not much older than I am, but he was in the big league since he was like 17, 18 or 19. And he was, I think at the time, arguably, and I know for a fact, the best player in the American League, obviously with Barry Bonds been in the other league, but arguably the best player in the game. And here I am walking into a place where he's kind of coveted for, 10, 11 years. And I'm not Griffey, like that's the kid. And here I am, 3.5 years in, trying to get my feet on the ground. And it was tough. I had a lot of anxiety. I had a lot of different things go on that no one really knew about. I just knew that, once I figured out, I was like, look, I know I can play center field with anybody. I don't care who it is. I just now need to actually continue to advance my bat. I'm not going to hit 50, but I can still use 30 or 40. So I'm just going to use every aspect I can, and then naturally, somehow we had a good team with A-Rod and Olerud and some other guys, and having some real tender veterans, and Stan Javier and Jay Buhner, which was a really close friend to Griffey Jr. that kind of like allowed me a lot of comfort, playing there. And then it was just after that, it was just kind of going out and play, and not try to get the people on my side, but just allow them to know that they got a good baseball player. And just so happened a few events took place to even allow the even more. And Seattle was probably the best thing to happen to me in my career, and having Lou Piniella as my manager when I did get traded. And I always just said, man, I get a chance to ride Griffey coattails to wherever it is, to the Hall of Fame, whatever it is. I just didn't become just like a side note in the whole deal, and I was able to accomplish more. I was being a very good part of the best winning years in Seattle still to this day.
That's right. Yeah.
And as far as Edgar, man, Edgar's just, like that was another guy. He was wholesome, very knowledgeable as a hitter. I'm so grateful to be able to play with a guy who has so much knowledge about hitting, and always, always, always kept you positive thinking, no matter how bad it was getting. Like, he didn't believe in thinking negative, failure, or whatever. Even his bats, he never said he would never hit with a bat below 356, like the numbers on his bat. So he was like very meticulous about everything, the weight of his bats, and just everything in general. And he was a quiet general, man. Like he was when he spoke, nobody knew that Edgar was a leader of the team, but he was a leader by default. But he never really spoke a whole lot. But he was a kind of a wholesome, quiet guy. But love to have fun, love to laugh. Some people give him the name Mr. Magoo. It's just because of his
mannerisms,
animated like aura, whatever. And I call him Scuba Steve because one day we were flying back to Seattle on a long flight, and I looked up, and I just happened to look to the back, and he's sitting there with a whole like oxygen mask on.
Scuba Steve.
Out of the water. So it's kind of cool. Like that's my nickname for him. But Edgar's great, man. He's always been good in any aspect, in the game and throughout the game in itself.
Thanks so much for joining us. Any final thoughts before we let you go?
No, I'm excited to come to Canada and to Kamloops to see what it's like, and it's just exciting to be able to take part of it, man. There are a couple of things that we all enjoy, and hopefully a lot of people come out. Hopefully the weather is really good.
Bring your shades because it's very hot here. It's
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, it's like 35 yesterday.
It was like 98 Fahrenheit yesterday. It'll be about 90 when you're here, and it's a dry heat like a sauna, not like a steam bath where you are. So it's a nice heat. Okay. There you go.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's
very
cool.
hot here. Yeah.
Right. I'm looking forward to it then. I was getting prepared to like get my jacket out.
No,
we live in a semi-desert here. It's really weird. We're about 3 hours north of Vancouver, but it's very, very hot. Very hot. So you'll love it.
Oh, okay.
All right.
That's what's up. I'm looking forward to it for real. Now,
Okay.
I may change the favorite role now from Jonny Gomes.
That's right.
That's
myself.
Right. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Appreciate it.
See you
All
later.
right, fellas, definitely.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, that's it with Mike Cameron. Your thoughts on that? That was awesome. That was a lot of
Awesome
fun.
interview. What a great guy. That was just interesting. Everything from the mental health at the start where he was talking, he's like so like deep into that.
Yeah.
His anecdotes are just fantastic.
Yeah.
It's great.
I wasn't going to ask him that off the top. I don't know what happened. I just asked him that question.
Well, that's why he's here in Kamloops.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very good question to ask, and his answer was very insightful, man.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Yeah.
Let's see if Michael Potestio is going to be as insightful in last week, this week.
Don't want the 9-hour cycle, please.
Freaking $500 hydro bill, piece of trash.
I need to speak to Gord on the 9er.
Hey, no, I'm actually Steve, the new owner.
First things first, pal. You should probably update your sign. Number 2, my dishwasher is tangled again. The 9-hour cycle, hydro bill through the roof. You guys don't fix appliances, I know that, so I need a new one.
We actually do fix appliances, but if you want, I can try some new ones first and have a look. You got a price in mind?
Money is not an obstacle for me.
Money's definitely an obstacle. He's the cheapest guy in Kamloops. Ain't that right, Darby?
Well, this here is going to be your Cadillac model, top of the line. This is our middle-of-the-road dishwasher, just a great dishwasher at a great price. This is our budget-friendly model, still a great dishwasher, just at a bit of a lower price.
Price doesn't work for me. Let's see if you can fix mine at home.
Alrighty then. There you go. Seems to be good. How's the fridge working?
The fridge is fine, Gord.
It's Steve.
Michael, you guys okay?
I'm okay today. I don't feel any venom or anything like that right at the moment.
Yeah,
he seems like he's in a good mood. When you have two cats and one's got its hair all straight up and they hate each other.
Yeah.
I'm not getting that vibe at all from Michael right now.
Yeah, it's pretty good actually. Feel calm, cool, collected. So it's good.
Yeah. May go make some sausage or something a little bit later if you want. Yeah.
That would be a very calming experience.
Tomatoes. Michael, you and Folds were talking about tomatoes. What's been going on there?
I was in my yard, and I had started for the second year some tomato plants and some peas. Very, very, very minor, but the tomatoes came out really well. I was out of town for 2.5 weeks. I wasn't sure how the garden was, but it got enough water. The little cherry tomatoes are fantastic. They're still there, and I'm eating them. But then I have these, not the big beefsteak ones, but the middle ones, the half size of these ones on a bigger plant. And when you look down, they look beautiful like this, but then you turn them over, and it's like someone had cut it off, and it's all black.
Yeah.
Every single one. So I'm throwing it into the thing for the bears. But I don't know what it was. So I called up Michael, because he's a North Shore Italian who knows gardening better than the South Shore Italians. And
there goes the hair on the cat.
He consulted with his with his grandparents and his parents, and they came to the conclusion that they thought it was heat stress. And I thought, okay, but then I thought, well, why are the little tomatoes good? And the pea is a very cool weather plant, and the peas are going great in this very, very hot weather. So I looked it up online. Not that I'm doubting the North Shore Italians, but I looked it up online, and they say it could be many things. And it kept saying calcium deficiency.
Yeah.
But then why isn't it affecting my grape tomatoes? So maybe someone out there can answer the definitively.
Any thoughts on that, Michael?
Yeah, it was a real mystery. So that was what we thought. I think I looked that up too.
Yeah.
I heard that either like a calcium or like a water deficiency.
And you had it too, right?
Yeah, I had it even down on my plants.
And apparently, you're not supposed to water tomato plants like with your hose. Sometimes I'll go there and freshen them up, because the water on the leaves can lead to fungus. Maybe you're supposed to only water the dirt around them.
Yeah.
You learn something new every day.
Did you see the commercial?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
So a couple things.
Yeah.
First, I think I am owed a royalty now that my likeness is in the ads.
Yep.
So there's that.
There's a PBR can coming to you pretty soon.
And two, I believe I sent in a second photo that did in fact show the bounty of my lovely tomato crops.
Was that
this year.
photo that I used in there, was that yours, or was that Folds' tomato, the one that
No, that was mine. I
that
sent
was
him
yours.
that
Okay.
to basically show him like, hey, look, it happens to everybody.
Yeah. Even the North Shore Italians have a strikeout once in a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, we give you a hard time, but you've done a good job working lately, and we're going to talk to you about some serious stuff now. Did you get anything new, or what's the latest on the Sing Bowl shooting?
Yeah, I called the cops about that yesterday, and these things kind of, you do this enough, it's as expected. Kind of like the wells kind of run dry for information right now. Cops don't really have a lot to report.
Let's remind the viewers who
Yes.
who didn't pick up the copy or see online, what happened here?
Yeah, so
On August 26th, Friday, what happened?
Yeah, it was Friday just before 11 o'clock.
At night?
Yep. Yeah, sorry, at night. Isn't bad. So Friday.
I'm editing Mezzi Talks.
As I talk. Friday at 11 p.m.
Yes.
There was, or just before 11 p.m., there was reports, the 911 call. There were 2 men found shot in a red Toyota Matrix along Ord Road, literally just outside the Foothills Estates trailer park, which is in the 1500 block there, across from the BMX track, the city's BMX track. 2 men shot. One, the driver was fatally shot. The passenger there sent to hospital, stable condition. So police, cordoned off the scene. Residents, I went there over the weekend, told me, many of them, I'm surprised, talking to people individually, almost all of them said they heard 5 distinct shots ring out in succession. One guy even told me, he said he saw 2 cars pass by right before the shooting began. So we've had basically descriptions of maybe being a drive-by of some sorts there, but not 100% sure. Just a few hours after the shooting took place, there was a burnt-out vehicle that police got called to in Raleigh, which just a few minutes away up the road.
Yeah,
there.
down the Halston up towards some peaks there. Yeah.
The cops aren't willing to tie that together yet. They just,
Not yet.
But that's just like a common thing that normally can happen with gangs.
It's absolutely.
Yeah, it's a calling card type of thing.
It's connected for sure. We had the same thing happen in 2017 in September. Konam Shirzad, he was the co-founder of the Red Scorpions gang, who 2 weeks earlier, I interviewed him because they had raided his gym. And he claimed to me, I'm out of the gang business, and that's old news, I'm rehabbed. And then, of course, 3 weeks later, he gets shot in the head walking by his Garing Creek home by these 2 guys. And that was a gang hit. And then shortly after that, they found a car in flames up in Sahali. Again, another Honda stolen out of Surrey. So what they do is the hitmen come to town, they kill the guy in a stolen car, they drive the car, they burn it for evidence, and they take off. It's classic, right? And this is what happened this time.
And now there's circulating a photo of a Honda that we have on our website.
Yeah, a black late 90s Honda Civic that they've been circulating. I think that's essentially the car that they found burnt out.
That's the kind of car that was found burnt out. So they sent a stock image to say, if you've seen this car, on the 25th, 26th, suspicious if you saw this car parked somewhere, if this car piques your memory in any way, call the cops, because maybe they can track down to where it was.
Yeah, and that's all basically for whatever police may have and whatever information they have, obviously to actually be able to say definitively that this car was there during the shooting. They obviously want to try and get witness statements, video evidence to try and track its movements to place it at the scene of the crime.
It's very meticulous. A lot of people out there will say, well, how come the police haven't laid charges in this murder that's 2 years old or a year old? A lot of times they know who did it. They just have to make sure they prove it.
Anything else, Michael? Anything else you're working on? Anything else in this story? You were pounding the pavement, canvassing the area. What's on your mind? Anything?
Yeah, we were talking with Foothills residents there, and I guess when we talk about it having the hallmarks of a gang shooting, this is now our third homicide of the year, and I was looking at the stats that came out recently, Stats Canada, just kind of showing, I was looking at homicides for the last looking back the last 20 years, and we're kind of on the high side now. We're not, through the whole year yet. I looked just before I came in here, I think it was 14 out of the last 20 years. Kamloops usually has between 0 and 2 homicides a year. We're at 3 now. So
and two of which are definitely involved with gang or illegal activity.
What were we last year? Do you know?
I think we had 2 last year and then 3 each of the last years before that.
And then there was some gang activity a few years back that was flared up and then went down
It's
again.
such a central place, Kamloops. I'm surprised there's not more. Like, we're just right in the middle of, like Alberta and
all the
Vancouver,
highways,
everything
everything
comes together.
comes
Like,
through
it just seems, and all these shitty motels that that are just spots for.
And plus there's and maybe these 2 gang related murders. I'm saying they're gang related murders this year. There's a kid from Sahali Secondary who was found dead on the Kamloops Reserve in a parking lot, and they found a car out by Lafarge. Not sure if it was burnt, but anyway. Kamloops still, as far as I know, has not been dominated by one gang or a couple of gangs. Like in the Lower Mainland, every day there's a shooting there and then a retaliating shooting because they're fighting for the turf. The Red Scorpions, United Nations, Hells Angels, Wolfpack, all those guys. I'm not sure if Kamloops has one, and I know the police are working hard to keep them out of here. Yeah. So maybe this is part of that whole thing where they're vying for control, but no one has it yet. I don't know.
The Sing Bowl location is kind of weird. I mean, it's out of the way.
Who knows what was happening there? Maybe they tracked them there. Maybe there was a deal going down. Maybe they knew they were going to be there, and who knows?
They were kicking the soccer ball around at the Sing Bowl pitch.
And even the time of day, like obviously, it's not soccer going on at that time. But I looked where the shooting was. There was homes right on the other side of a berm of where these cars would have been. So you think, obviously, it's tragic that someone was murdered. But what about potential errant gunfire? I ended up talking with some of the people who back onto that road where the shooting took place, and they were checking their houses for bullet holes.
Well, they don't care. These guys don't care. They're down in Lower Mainland. I was down there last week, and there was a shooting in a restaurant, and people were diving under the tables. These idiots don't care.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Michael. Let's move on to Above the Folds, which is brought to you by McDonald's.
A lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. So we are educating our crew and staff on different things like pride or just diverse cultures that we have working here. So we talk about like Diwali and stuff like that.
That sounds like a really unique position that maybe other companies don't have. I mean, what does it mean to you to be able to have that kind of position?
It's really nice. I actually love this position. I get to learn a lot about a lot of cultures, which is very interesting to me. And as well as educating about some things that I'm passionate about. Pride is one thing. I'm gay, so it's nice to be able to educate our staff on stuff like this.
We know the Last Week clique has a desire for politics, and it's a good time right now because there's things happening. So you lead the way. There's a bunch of things to talk about.
Lots of things happening. We're taping this show on September 1st, and on September 9th, that's the deadline. At 4 o'clock on September 9th, you go to KamloopsThisWeek.com and you'll see the official list of candidates because that's the deadline to run for the civic election on October 15th. It's getting interesting. There's 17 people, because a few people have dropped out who said they're going to run. A few new people are coming in. Here's 3 right now. Carolyn King announced earlier this summer. But this week, Darpan Sharma and Denis Giesbrecht, they've joined forces with Carolyn King to it's not a slate, but it's a coalition. a loose, unofficial coalition. They're all independent candidates. They'll all have individual names on the ballot. There's no affiliation to any kind of party. But they pooled their resources, so you'll see ads around town on the buses, hopefully in Kamloops this week if they advertise with us. And they're going to advertise together.
So what's the common ground?
The common ground is they have a common platform. They want to get tougher on crime. They want more attention focus on not just the social housing, but like what Denis Walsh was saying, we need more treatments because they, like many people agree, the town's going to hell in a handbasket and the status quo is not working, we need to get better on that. They also want to get a handle on what they think is a little bit of excessive city hall spending. They want more transparency and they want to cut down on what they think is frivolous spending, and they just want to get the city, clean up the city.
What's the advantage of the informal coalition?
Well, I think if you like the message of, and Darpan is kind of the unofficial spokesman, he runs a Politics Kamloops page. If you like their message and you think, yeah, you know what, it's not working, we're going to have almost a brand new council anyway. There's going to be at least 5 new faces, if not, there's 3 incumbents running. If they all win, there's 5 new faces, a new mayor. There might be more than 5 new faces. The advantage is that if a lot of people are hip to their message, then and they know that they're together, then these 3 will get votes from those people. The disadvantage is there's a lot of people who might not like their message, which I think is a little right of center, and who might want the more socially conscious left of center views of some council candidates, and then you lose all those ones. So it's a yin and yang thing.
With the turnover, how common is it to have this much turnover?
Not too common in Kamloops since I've been here. I've been here for 5, 8, 11, 14. This will be the 7th election. 6 elections, 1 by-election. And I think this is probably the one election where there's the most open seats. We have 3 incumbent councillors, veteran councillors, not veteran. We have Sadie Hunter, who's a 1-term councillor. She's running for mayor. We have Dieter Duty. He's been on council for a few terms. He ran for council back in 11. He's running for mayor. Arjun Singh has been on council since the early 2000s. He's running for mayor. So all 3 are running for mayor, so they're not going to be on council. And then you have 2 other people running for mayor, Reed Hamer-Jackson and Ray Dollywall. They're not on council. On the council side, you have Denis Walsh this week announced he's not seeking re-election after 3 terms, so he's a long-term councillor gone. Yeah. Kathy Sinclair earlier said she's not seeking a seat on council, and so that leaves 3 people.
We'll get into Walsh in a second, but so that's more inexperienced than usual on a council.
Yep.
So how does that affect things? I mean, having that many more people who are new to the game.
Well, they're going to have to. A lot of the new councillors, and I've spoken to a couple who got elected. They learn really quickly that what they think can be done quickly, you can't be done quickly. They learn that what they think the city can do, the city can't do. It's hamstrung. It's very limited in what it can do. So they go to when they get elected, they go to what they call councillor school. They learn how bylaws work, procedures, what you can and cannot do. There's a lot of stuff that a lot of candidates are saying that can't be done at city. It's just impossible. It's not legislative possible. They'll find out really quick that it's. Ray Dollywall found this out really quick. Ray Dollywall ran for council back in the by-election of 17. He got in, and he was going to clean this city up. He was going to clean I remember talking to him, and he was very vocal about doing a whole bunch of stuff. And he spent a year on council, and then it was only a 1 year because it was a by-election, and then he ran again and didn't get in. He finished 9th, just on the bubble. And afterwards he said, he was like, he was kind of intimidated to be quiet, not do this. But I think he found that a lot of what you want to do, once you get in there and you're in the political machine, it's hard to do.
Denis Walsh, that's fairly big news. I mean, him deciding that he's moving on.
He was vacillating, and I actually did a story with him in June, and he said, I'm going to decide by the end of the summer. We all thought he would not run again because he had done this before, and the only reason he ran the last time was because he was worried about Riverside Park and the commercialization. He wanted to make sure to protect the park. He's been through a lot, Denis. Denis has been through a lot. I think he's been unfairly maligned by a lot of people for his vaccine status. He's not one of those crazy anti-vaxxers. He just decided not to get the vaccine, doing some research, but he wasn't one of those idiots at the protest thinking this is his freedom being done. And he made some good points he made some very good points about the vaccine mandate that I agree with. And a lot of people were really, really hard on him. And he opted out of his business partnership downtown. I think that was part of it. He was getting a lot of heat from people. So, I think Denis Walsh is a good guy. I've had a couple beers with him. I've spoken to him. He's earnest. He's honest. He's genuine. He really cares about the city. He lives downtown. And even this motion that he did this week, it's not coming from a place of not compassionate and a place of it's a place of compassion. And I think he's done really well. And I think when we posted the story on and social media, Terry Lake, former mayor, former MLA, a bunch of other people congratulate him for his service, because it is service. It's like you're volunteering your time for a pittance, and you're getting all this shit from people. He did a good job.
Okay. Anything else political before we say goodbye?
No, just that it's really getting really interesting. Pick up the Kamloops This Week print edition on the September 7th, and every week thereafter we're going to have profiles of the candidates.
You sent your email out
with the
saying,
mayors.
Let's go, it's time to
Yeah,
wrap
we
up.
got them all going. And in this show, I'm waiting to hear back. We're hoping to have all 5 mayoral candidates beginning next week, hopefully.
Right here in the hot seat.
Right here. And we'll interview them September 7th, 14th, 21st, 28th, October 5th. And October 5th is our big civic election forum at True. Everyone's welcome, 7 o'clock. Mike and Bill and hopefully Engineering Greg are going to be there to help run this thing. And we'll have much more to say in the newspaper and on this show.
Okay. Mike, McDonald's, did you have a breakfast sandwich today?
I did not, but I'm hungry, and I feel like I might just, after we're done, go get myself a McDonald's large coffee with 2 milk and a breakfast sandwich.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
That's it.
Okay, I had one this morning. It was really good. And I also stopped by, no word of a lie, New Leaf Produce Market, and there were people literally trying to get into the store before it was open. And that's true. That's not me just pumping the tires of Herman, which I like to do. It's Salsa Week. Get on down there. Gord's Appliance and Mattress Center. Gord's giving back. It's officially going. They're giving some kind of appliance away.
people
or
who need
appliances
it.
to people in need. They're
That's
doing
very
it every
good.
single month. You can still do that. Apply again for this month. There's a big whirlpool, some kind of contraption they're giving away. It looks amazing. And so that's Gord's. Next week, he'll take center stage for Gord's, for New Leaf, for McDonald's, for Chris Folds. I'm Marty Hastings, for Mike, for Bill. We'll see you last week.
Last week.